Welcome back to another episode of the Joey Musto Show presented by Team Musto. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new property that hit the market in Central Kihei. I'm going to give my opinion on it and why I think it's something to keep an eye on. And then we're going to take a look at a condo that recently came off the market at Wailea Ekahi. I'm going to give my opinion on why I think it came off the market and how we would have went about getting the property sold. So let's start off with the new Central Kihei home. 568 Kaiola Street. This is located, like I said, in Central Kihei. Three bed, four bath, 1,687 square foot home. It has now been on the market 9 days. Quick property highlights, ocean view from main living areas. So you have an ocean view from the kitchen, the lanai, and the primary bedroom. It's on a large lot at 7,623 square feet with expansion potential. Recently remodeled interior in 2026. So I would imagine as they were getting ready to list this thing, these sellers wanted to go through and fix a couple key things. Um, so what are the benefits to the Central Kihei location? Well, it's easy access to North and South Kihei. One of the reasons you'd want to be close to North Kihei is you could enjoy Sugar Beach, which is in the picture here. If you like to exercise, it's 6 miles of uninterrupted shoreline. You can run all the way down to Ma'alaya and back. You can walk, you can swim. You're also close to South Kihei. That's great because you're close to Kamalii Beach 1, 2, and 3. Those are great for swimming, great for hanging out. And South Kihei has some of the best restaurants in Maui. So that's kind of the benefit to being in Central Kihei. You also have quick access to Piilani Highway. So if you need to get into Central Maui, to go grocery shopping or something like that, it's easier than if you were in South Kihei, McKenna, or Wailea. And then if you want to get out to Wailea, it's easier than if you were in Central Maui or North Kihei. Um, it's just, yeah, easy access using Piilani Highway. So I think there's a ton of benefits to being in Central Kia. I think it often gets overlooked. And when it comes to affordability, when it comes to entry level prices, it's definitely the best spot in South Maui. So here's how the Kihei single family home market performed in February 2026 and how it has performed year to date. Now, I think these numbers are important to pay attention to. In Kihei, we saw 8 homes sell in February 2026. The median sales price was 1.225 million. Total dollar volume approaching 11 million. So February was a little bit slower than January. January had 10 sales. We've seen 18 home sales year to date. The good news for sellers is that we have seen a 38.5% increase in the number of sales from the same time in 2025, and total dollar volume is up almost 38% year over year. The good news for buyers, however, is the average sales price is down and the median sales price is down. So we are still clearly in a buyer's market out in Kihei. But buyer activity is up. Slightly lower prices are giving buyers more leverage. Um, so here's what is sold around the area in the past 6 months. So 568 is listed at, it's kind of a weird number here, 1,336,336. It comes out to $792 per square foot. Now, if you look in Piilani Villages, over the past 6 months, the average sold price per square foot, the range was between 580 and 816. So a renovated home pushed toward the higher end there, but most trades were around the mid 600s to low 700s. So if you look at 568 compared to Piilani Villages, it is priced at a premium. If you look at Kamalii Alayna, $705 per square foot. Smaller home, longer days on market, 143 days. This kind of shows where baseline buyer demand is. So again, compared to that 568, priced at a premium. And the same story with Hale Piilani. Larger homes drag the price per square foot down. Even the higher price homes stayed under 710. So we haven't seen anything break 710 when it comes to the average sold price per square foot. However, we're now going to take a look at the property because I think there are valid reasons why this thing deserves to be priced at a premium. Now, some of the pictures are virtually staged, so it's important to keep that in mind. Here's kind of a panorama view, large level yard. This is huge. Also would take a little bit of maintenance in Kihei because you don't get that much weather down there. This is virtually staged. One of the main living areas, great room to kitchen. What I like about this is the center lanai. I think it's nice if you're hosting people and the indoor outdoor transition here out to the lanai. I think that's great. This is huge. This is actually what the sunset looks like. And if you can see that from your kitchen, buyers are always willing to pay a premium for ocean views. Um, Lanai at sunset, Lanai. So not only does this thing have ocean views, it also has mountain views. Here's a view of Haleakala, kitchen islands, kitchen countertop, cabinets. Stairs hallway. So this is virtually staged, but this is what it could look like. The primary bedroom. The reason it's great is because it has an ocean view. Can wake up to that every day. renovated. So these are probably some of the renovations they did here with the bathrooms, just a little bit of touch-ups here. Um, Here's what it looks like from above. Backyard. Not a huge fan of the carpet stairs, but this is the mother-in-law unit, the downstairs, one bed, one bath. Got the air conditioning, which would be huge in Kihei. This is virtually staged, but it could look like, and this is just beautiful, I think. Um, if you were to do something like that with it. Now, if we can, another bedroom, if we can get into the picture here, bathrooms, front yard, nice. But here's the picture I was looking for. So one of the downsides, I think, to this property is that it is not within walking distance to the beach. And I think that is actually very important because there are, people that are looking to buy in Kihei and there's competition with properties that are closer to the beach. And if people are able to walk to the beach, that's one of the first questions people ask is like, how far is it to the beach? So this is about a 10-minute drive to Sugar Beach and probably 10 minutes into South Kihei if you wanted to go to Kamalii Beach Park 1. So that is a little bit of an inconvenience. But getting back to the notes here, how would we have likely priced this? So I think there are valid reasons it deserves a premium. The ocean views, strong orientation. So not only do you have ocean views, you also have mountain views, renovated, move-in ready condition. Now I usually don't say that things deserve to be priced at a premium because of the renovations, but the good thing about the renovations is it makes it easier to show because when you're walking through with buyers, if everything is nice and it just feels modern, people aren't doing that mental math in their head of like, oh, I'd have to fix this, and how much would that cost? Um, and one of the renovations, the last bullet point here, is the recently updated major system, which is the roof. And the roof is only 2 years old. I think this is huge because this could be a huge expense um, to a buyer. So you also have the flexible layout with additional living space. That's huge. People are going to see that mother-in-law unit downstairs and get all kind of ideas on how they could use it, what kind of rent they could bring in. And you have a larger lot with outdoor potential. Aggressive pricing range would have been between 1.10 million and 1.175 million. Wouldn't have went with this strategy, but it's positioned right above where most buyers are transacting. Pulls in buyers comparing against Piilani and Hale Piilani. Goal is competition and faster activity. So I think if you went with an aggressive price here and you did an open house, I believe you would have multiple offers within the first week. But again, I don't think you need to do that right now unless the seller is really motivated. Moderate pricing probably would have been a better strategy. And if you strip away all the emotions and you really just want to get this thing sold, it is likely where it should have been positioned. That's not to say that we would have positioned it there. Probably would have positioned it a little bit higher, but this reflects a realistic premium for views, condition, and layout. And again, what this property doesn't have is, it's not within walking distance to the beach. Um, is still within reach for active buyers in this segment. And if people were comparing this to like Piilani Villages or some of the other neighborhoods we looked at for the comps, this is better, than something that they're going to find there because you're not going to find ocean views there. You're not going to find walkability to the beach there. You're not. So this would be better than that. So I probably think a better price range would have been somewhere between the moderate pricing and high test the market, maybe even into the bottom end of the high test the market there. Um, they price just above the high test the market, and that's at the very top of the comp range. Requires buyers to view it as one of the best options available. So, like I said, if you're looking at the comps, this property does stand out. So that's why I do think it's okay to be in the high test the market range here. And when we looked at the monthly numbers for February 2026 and the year-to-date numbers for 2026, we are seeing demand return to Kihei for single-family homes. So, this might be a little, might have to be a little bit more patient. Um, and you might have to do a little bit of a price reduction if you price it outside of this high test the market range. But I don't think it's a bad spot for this home to be in. There's a higher risk of sitting and needing a reduction. But again, I mean, I don't think like if you do a price reduction, like you could go out in the high test of market range here or even just above that and not get any activity, do a price reduction, market the price reduction, and you're right back in the game when it comes to this property. So that's kind of my take on 568. I do think this is a property that's going to move relatively quick. They just might have to do a little bit of a price reduction or be willing to accept a little bit off that list price. Now, the next one I wanted to talk about was Wailea Ekahi Unit 25C. This is completely different. This is a condo in Wailea. And when I talk about Wailea condos, Wailea Ekahi and Wailea Ikolu are kind of like the gap between Grand Champions and maybe, the Palms for entry level, um, people that want to get into the Wailea market. So this was listed at 1.10 million. It started at 1.175 million, one bed, one bath, 792 square feet. It was on the market for 368 days, so I definitely think it was a good idea that this thing came off the market. I think it needs a reset and it needs to build that momentum again before it sells. When you look at it from a price per square foot range, it was $1,388, almost 389. Now, in the past 90 days, I was surprised by this, and I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. But we saw 4 units sell at Wailea Ekahi. Seems like a lot of activity for a condo complex in Wailea right now. Median sold price was 1.312,500. Price per square foot 997 to 2,100 and 2,116. And now if you look at the price per square foot for unit 25C, this was actually towards the lower end of the range here before it came off the market. But again, that's why I think it's a good idea. It came off the market, use it as a refresh, go out and market it. Even if you come back at 1.10 million, you go out and market where it is based on price per square foot. And people pay attention to that kind of stuff, especially condo buyers, because it is more of an apples to apples comparison. So I think that's a good point to market on. Median price per square foot, $1,270. So that's probably, closer to where you would want to come out with when you relist this. And then average unit size 1,064, average days on market 127 days. So the units that sold were a little bit bigger. And I also think that's why this thing had a hard time selling, just because, you know, it's one bed, one bath in Wailea is a little bit less in demand than, a two bed would be or a three bed would be. It's just going to take a more specific buyer. So you have to keep that in mind with the price. Average days on market, 127 days. Now, if you look between the gap between list and reality, so again, like I talked about, this is easier to do with condos. The average list price was 1,637,250. Average sold 1.531250. So what does that mean? It means that it's selling at about a 6.5% discount between what the sellers are asking and then what the buyers are actually paying. So that's not quite as big a gap as we're seeing at like Grand Champions was 10 or 11%, but it still shows that buyers are negotiating at Wailea Ekahi and deals are getting done. So like I talked about, I was pretty shocked to see 4 sales in the past 90 days at Ekahi. If you look at some of its competitors, Wailea Ikolu, 2 sales, Grand Champions, 2 sales, Palms at Wailea, 1 sale. Um, Wailea Ekahi shows strong alignment. Average list 1.64 versus 1.53 they sold. That's about a 6% gap, so it's closer, like I talked about, than Grand Champions. Ikolu's about a 40 grand gap, much longer days on market, 187 days. Grand Champs is a $65,000 gap with lower price point. Palms at Wailea shows the biggest disconnect. Yeah, so I was actually shocked to see this one too. The active list price is 1.46 million, the average, and the recent sale was at 925K. So I think people at the Palms of Wailea are just not accepting the fact that if they're trying to sell, they gotta go a little bit lower. How would we have gotten this unit sold? So I think there in this case, there's not a lot of good reasons why this thing deserved to be priced at a premium. It did have a garden view, which again is not great compared to the ocean view that you can find out in Wailea. And that's where premiums are being paid. One bedroom product compared to stronger two-bed units, like I talked about, it's just a more specific buyer that you have to look for who's looking for a one bed, one bath, than somebody that's looking for a two-bed. Price close to higher end units without matching the features when it originally came out. Aggressive pricing strategy would have been between 925, 975. I think this would have been kind of hard to swallow as a seller, just because it is under that $1 million price range. However, it is aligned with where one bedroom units are trading, supported by Unit 20D, selling at 950 grand. That was also a one bed. So anybody that is looking at this one is going to comp into that one because it's a one bed, one bath that sold relatively, recently. So if you're listed at 1.1, somebody's looking at the 950. You know, how do you justify that? Do you justify it with a garden view? Not really. This accounts for buyers' pushback on garden view units and creates immediate value relative to other Ekahi options. So obviously, if a unit at Ekahi goes on the market for under $1 million, it's going to generate attention. So if you're really serious about getting this sold, I think it would be a good idea to go under a million, even though it would be, kind of hard to accept. Probably a better strategy, a more realistic one would have been moderate pricing between a million and 1,075. Now, this is positioned slightly above the recent one bedroom sale, but maybe based on the remodel, you could say it's valid. And also, if you wanted to really take advantage of the marketing here, if you came out like 995, 999 might be even better because then you still are under the million. And But if you go a little bit higher in the moderate price range, this leaves room for negotiation, and we are seeing the 6.5% discount between, what it is listed at and what it sells at. So it probably would have been a little bit safer to go higher. But just if you really wanted to generate interest, if you put it in the 900s, people are going to look. This would likely require a little bit more patience to secure a buyer, and then high test the market pricing 1.1 to 1.175. This is above where one bedroom units are trading. Buyers have already shown resistance at this price, and I think it's just hard to justify without an ocean view. Like what is the premium? So that is all I've got for today. Here's all of our information. I'm really excited about the Kihei home. I think that one is definitely one to keep an eye on. The fact that it's been on the market 9 days now and it's still on the market, I think that shows it wasn't priced, in the aggressive range or even the moderate. I think people are realizing it's a little bit high. So if that one does a price reduction, I think somebody will pounce on it. When it comes to the Wailea Ekahi one, I think if they do list it and they go closer to the $1 million price range, I think that's going to draw attention and buyers are going to be, excited to see that. I'm on all the social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, or platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Substack for written content. And yeah, hope you guys got value from this video and like, comment, subscribe, share in the comment section the kind of videos that you would like to see, what would bring value to buyers and sellers on Maui. And yeah, hopefully the weather gets better on Maui because it's been a rough week and a half. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching and hope everybody has a good rest of their day.